This brings up the question of the autonomy of art. Art has often been pressed into service, used as a tool or instrument for other purposes, whether religious, political, or otherwise. But art itself does not lose its connection to truth simply because it has long been used as a tool. This is because art is a creative act, a reconstruction of external things based on the motivations of vital human emotions. And these vital human emotions themselves contain the primal relationship between things and human existence. This is an inevitable outcome in the hands of a true artist. So even when we look at artworks with religious themes, we can disregard the religious subject matter itself. What can we still discover in such artworks? The primal emergence of truth. This truth emerges beyond the original motivations of the artist. The sole prerequisite is that the artist be a true one. Subconsciously, they will necessarily reveal the primal emergence of truth, because this is what the creative act of art itself demands. Art does not lose its connection to truth simply by being used instrumentally. The primal relationship between things and human existence is an essential part of genuine artistic creation, and this can manifest even in artworks with overt religious or political themes. The autonomy of art lies in this capacity to reveal primordial truths, beyond the artist's conscious intentions. Let's talk about a simple example. Suppose we have three painters who are given the same task. Faced with the same natural scenery, these three painters are asked to do only one thing: to realistically depict this natural scenery on the canvas, without any personal interpretation or thoughts. I want you to paint this landscape. But I have hired three individuals with considerable artistic skills, considerable painting skills. And please, don't look at what the others are painting. Each of you, complete your work. Faced with the same natural scenery, will the results be the same? Definitely not. After all three painters have completed their work, they look at each other's paintings and realize that the differences are so significant. Why is that? Didn't we agree not to add any subjective elements? Just to achieve one thing: to realistically reproduce that external natural scenery on their own canvas. This instruction is clear. Nevertheless, despite everyone earnestly pursuing the same goal, the outcomes are still different. Where does the reason lie? This is a very interesting matter. A real object has to be transferred to another medium. This medium may be a painting, right? Canvas. You have to transfer it, and if you don't have imagination, you can't do it. It's like we want to move a real human body into a piece of stone, and it becomes a statue of that person. Made of marble, so marble is its medium. To move a fleshy body into a stone, into a cold, lifeless stone, to achieve a representation. Even if it's just for representation, what do you demand of a sculptor? Artistic imagination, otherwise it can't be done. When artistic imagination is at work, this imagination serves as a way of perceiving reality, the external reality. The driving force behind this perception is the emotional vitality of life, which gives rise to artistic imagination. Without the power of life's emotions, there can be no imagination, and without imagination, even the reproduction of an object becomes impossible. This is because faithfully reproducing the object reveals that it is no longer the same thing. This is because you have to transfer from one medium to another. This very transfer itself requires artistic imagination, and the driving force behind artistic imagination is precisely the vitality of human emotions. Therefore, the objective, cold, and photorealistic depiction of an object will not achieve its own purpose. You can try to do so, but after the artwork is finished, you may feel that it does not resemble the original, that it is not true to the object. So what does the very act of artistic creation inherently dictate? It cannot simply copy any existing understanding. What it relies on is the artist's imagination, And what does this imagination necessarily require? The primal emergence of truth, regardless of the subject matter. We know that Bach has many works that we enjoy listening to, right? They are actually religious in theme. He might compose a hymn or a mass, right? It's religious. But what we hear is not the religious concept, not the Christian concept. This piece of music is meaningful in itself, and this meaning is not a matter of technique. It's a certain state of mind, a certain imagination of Bach that has entered into this work, and it inspires us. So, the distinction between genuine artistic creation and the activities of a craftsman does not need imagination. The thing he creates has already been in his mind in conceptual form. I want to make a stone axe, right? So, when it comes to a stone axe, it's completely clear, there's no need for imagination here. The only thing that matters is to successfully make the tool as he has conceived it. But artistic creation is not like that. Before the creation is completed, the artist does not know what he will create. It's only at the end of the creative process that he sees what he has finally accomplished. This is what we will talk about later, the process and essence of artistic creation. So, we can see that the autonomy of art is not something we impose on it. Even if art is used as a means in practice, as long as it is art, it must contain what? Autonomy. Because it is demanded by its own creative process. All artistic activity itself demands this kind of imagination. This artistic imagination is expressed as shenxi in Chinese, in the aesthetic thought of China, in Liu Xie's 5th century CE, Wen Xin Diaolong. Without shenshi, all artistic creation is impossible. Even if your purpose is just to reproduce things. If you want to successfully reproduce, you must have shenshi, otherwise your reproduction will not be successful. Unless what you want to create is not a work of art but a useful tool. Making a stone axe does not require inspiration. The actual practical value of the thing to be made has already been predetermined. But even if we are just trying to faithfully reproduce things, we already need to use our imagination. Then, when art finally recognizes its own autonomy, and develops and advances upon that recognition, it will ultimately attain its autonomous status. It will explicitly position itself as what? The event of the occurrence of truth. Art is the primal, original event of the occurrence of truth. This is what we want to talk about in the first and second sections. It's also what we want to talk about in the third section. That is, art is the original occurrence of truth. In my book about art philosophy, I included a really important quote from Heidegger: "The existence of a work of art is to establish a world, no matter how small the work may be." Let's take the example of Zheng Banqiao, 18th century CE, who was known for painting bamboo. People used to ask him, "Why do you always paint bamboo?" And he would reply, "I paint bamboo so that I can truly see it." It's quite intriguing, right? I mean, who hasn't seen bamboo before? So, what is it that Zheng Banqiao really wants to see? So Heidegger has this insightful exposition. The existence of the artwork is to establish a world, but what is this world? The world is certainly not an object that stands before us, allowing us to scrutinize it carefully. Science views the world in this way. Science observes, experiments, and studies this world, treating it as an objective realm. However, Heidegger says, the world is decidedly not an object that stands before us, allowing us to examine it closely. As long as birth and death, blessing and punishment, continually draw us into existence, the world remains something non-objective, and we humans forever belong to it. How do we view the world then? From the perspective of science and technology, the world is an object for us to manipulate. We process and handle it, in order to make our lives more convenient and advantageous to human interests. But the world that art reveals is not like this at all. It is the world to which we have always already belonged, the world in which we are born and die, receive blessings and punishments, hope and despair. We have always belonged to this world. It is art's task to let this world come forth and present itself. So when we discuss the relationship between art and life, we arrive at the recognition that art is not just clothing the truth in imagistic form. Rather, it is the primal disclosure of truth itself, not the scientific concepts and logical descriptions of external things, but the very manifestation of the life world to which we have always belonged. It is in this sense that we speak of truth, not equating it with scientific knowledge. It is in this sense that we say art is the primal, originary event of the occurrence of truth. We'll take a look at another paragraph and then discuss it. Heidegger, in his very important article, The Origin of the Work of Art, talks about the painting of the pair of peasant shoes by Van Gogh. What is the significance of this painting? The peasant shoes painted by Van Gogh are not actual footwear that we can take off the canvas and wear. No, they are not. This painting also does not show us a technical drawing of how a pair of peasant shoes is constructed. It doesn't have either of these meanings, right? So why put it on the canvas? Is it just to satisfy our aesthetic taste? It's not beautiful. It doesn't satisfy our aesthetic taste like a beautiful painting would. Pretty, hanging in a room for decoration. No. Heidegger wrote a passage to appreciate Van Gogh's painting of the peasant shoes. He said, "From the worn-out insides of the shoes, the dark hollows of the openings gather the toil and hardship of laborious steps. In these hard, heavy, worn-out peasant shoes, the resilient and sluggish steps on the vast, eternally monotonous furrows of the fields, trudging in the steep chill of the cold wind, gather, and the leather shoes stick to the moist and fertile earth. As dusk falls, these shoes walk alone on the path in the fields, echoing the silent call of the earth, displaying the tranquil bestowal of the mature grain, symbolizing the hazy hibernation of the earth in the desolate winter fields. These objects are permeated with the unwavering anxiety for the reliability of bread, as well as the wordless joy of overcoming poverty, implying the trembling of childbirth and the shiver of approaching death. These objects belong to the earth, and they are preserved in the world of the farmer." So, where is the significance of Van Gogh's painting in this passage? What is its artistic value? We are talking about artistic value. Not to identify, oh, these are peasant shoes. It's not for this, right? We all see peasant shoes. Without Van Gogh's painting, we would just see footwear. So, in Van Gogh's painting, the peasant shoes depict the farmer's world of existence. His struggles, his destiny, demonstrate the connection between humans and the earth. Humans have always lived off the earth, and the usefulness of tools is inseparable from their reliability. The reliability of these tools represents the connection between human survival and the earth. You cannot separate them. The painting showcases this. Therefore, it's about redefining what the world is, then reinterpreting what life is, and then understanding why other so-called truths or the truths we derive become possible. Just as in the concept of time, we usually understand the concept of time through Newton's physics. It is the uniform passing and linking of countless moments. But how do people have the concept of time? In Newtonian physics, time is just a scale for measuring the speed of change, called physical time. But in physical time, time has been what? Dephysicalized. How does the concept of time reside in the human mind? It is derived from the apprehension of death or the existential void and holding on to existence. It is because people have the concept of time that they can make it physical. The concept of time itself is an understanding of existence. That's how it is. In time, people appreciate existence. This is something that St. Augustine made very clear in his Confessions. The context of this thought was later submerged, however, so what we now commonly accept is the science concept of time from Newtonian physics. In fact, what is it? It's the non-temporalization of time. The premise of the non-temporalization of time is that there must first be time. The temporalization leads us to understand that it is not a concept, not a physical understanding of physics, it is primitive. So, with this brief discussion, we have established some of the most basic understanding: what is life? The connection between art and life. Art is the original occurrence of truth, the primordial event, so the work of art is actually the work of life. Alright, that's it for today.